Hey, this sermon series, Soundtracks, is all about thoughts about thoughts. So I want to kick us off giving us 3 scientific thoughts and then 3 scriptural thoughts. Here's thought number 1, scientific. We've discovered in the last, say, 20, 25 years, something called neuroplasticity. It is that the fact that your brain can actually change. I don't mean you can change your mind or change your thoughts. You can physically change the structure of your brain. How? A thought is actually a piece of protein that's embedded in between 2 synapses. So whenever you think a thought, there's a physical protein embedded in that synapse. You think it again, and now there's 2. Think it again, now there's 3. By the time you think a thought 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, you literally are taking over geography of your brain. That's why thinking about thinking is so important. You literally change your brain. Here's scientific observation number 2. Emotional and physical pain are registered in the brain in the same receptors. This is interesting. Though a physical pain, like you cut yourself or you break a bone, that physical pain is different than an emotional pain, but it registers in the same part of the brain. Therefore, it feels just as difficult or painful emotionally as physically. I found that fascinating. Here is the 3rd scientific thought. Our brains defer to negative thoughts over positive thoughts. Why? It was a survival mechanism in the early days of humanity. We're out there on the savannah, we see predators. We will, like if you see a predator in a sunset, you're not going to sit there and watch the sunset. So our brains have been trained to defer to the negative as a survival mechanism. But here's what's different today. What we are facing, the dangers we're facing, are emotional dangers rather than a physical danger. And what they found is that when animals who are being hunted, like a little rabbit out and a coyote's chasing it, as soon as that rabbit gets away, its entire system goes back to a normative state of rest. I mean, it spikes quickly and it drops quickly. Ours does not. Because our danger is emotional or relational, we tend to stay at a heightened peak because our danger doesn't go away because the danger is in our heads. That's why so many people are wrestling with mental health issues, because we have not mastered our thoughts. Hence, this is why it's important to think about thinking. According to the National Science Foundation, 80% of our thoughts are negative, and this blew me away. 95% of our thoughts are repetitive. Like what you thought yesterday, the same thought today. So if the majority of your thoughts are negative and you keep repeating them over and over, guess what is going to happen to the structure of your brain? Okay, that's enough of science. I want to show you how the Bible, 2,000 years ago, already warned us and trained us to think about thinking in a way that would change our brains. 2 Corinthians. We destroy arguments and every lofty opinion raised against the knowledge of God, and take every thought captive to obey Christ. You can take captive your thoughts. What a thought. Romans 12. You've probably heard this before. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. We all want to change. We want to be transformed. How? It's not first through habits, it's first through thinking, by the renewal of your mind. Ephesians 4. To put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life, and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and to be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and to put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. How do we change? Again, by changing our minds. That's not a metaphor. We literally change our minds. And that is something worth talking about.